The whispers of doubt have finally died down. For too long, the narrative surrounding Arsenal was a tragedy of two halves. A dazzling start, a spectacular, inevitable collapse. They were the masters of aesthetic football, but always the victims of their own fragile mentality. Every great moment was followed by the creeping dread of stoppage time, a minute where a single defensive lapse would undo 80 minutes of artistry. But that is history. The Mikel Arteta era is no longer defined by beautiful failures. It is defined by a beautiful, cold, and utterly relentless efficiency that has turned the tide of English football. To understand why stopping this team has become virtually impossible, you must look beyond the scorelines and dissect the fundamental transformation of the club's DNA. A shift that started not on the transfer sheet, but on a training pitch governed by non-negotiable principles. The revolution began with a demand for total professional discipline. 6 years ago, the team culture was soft, characterized by fluctuating intensity and a tolerance for slippage. Now, the standards are the oxygen the players breathe. Arteta implemented a system where tardiness, poor recovery, or a lapse in focus during a drill means an immediate, uncompromising exit from the team, regardless of status or salary. These standards are no longer enforced by the manager alone. The hierarchy of the dressing room, led by figures like Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, and William Saliba, has taken ownership, transforming team meetings from top-down lectures into collective dissections, where every single player must articulate their personal solution to the last mistake. This institutionalized, zero-tolerance approach has surgically removed the soft core that once defined a club, replacing emotion with systems, hope with repetition, and feeling with an unbreakable, analytical process. This cultural bedrock supports the most intimidating defensive structure on the continent. Since the start of the 2023-24 season, the statistics paint a picture of defensive dominance that is unprecedented in Europe's top 5 leagues. Arsenal concedes fewer goals per match than any of their major competitors. The metrics of opposition opportunity have been crushed. Fewer touches inside the penalty area, shots taken from greater distances, and a drastically reduced expected goals (XG) value for those shots that manage to get through air. It is a system built not on reactive saving, but on preventative pressure and positional perfection. At the heart of this lie, William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, a centre-back pairing that is arguably the most complete in the modern game. Their partnership is governed by clear, non-negotiable roles. One defender attacks the initial ball, owning the air and the contact, while the other covers the ground, acting as the safety net, and preparing for the next phase. Their bodies are always positioned to facilitate the next pass, maintaining the flow even when defending. The pressing triggers are like a tripwire. A heavy touch from an opponent, a square pass, or a forward facing his own goal. And the collective response is immediate and automated. When the ball is lost high up the pitch, the rest defence clicks into place instantly. Fullbacks narrow, midfielders slide, and the counter-attack dies a sudden, violent death before it can ever reach full speed. The late collapses that once haunted the Emirates have been purged through this high-performance laboratory approach, where mistakes are not scolded but analysed, corrected, and drilled out of existence until the next training session begins. The team no longer just defends, they suffocate. The true engine of this transformation, however, sits just in front of that defensive fortress. It's Declan Rice. His arrival was not simply the acquisition of a holding midfielder. It was the purchase of the team's new heartbeat. Rice arrived with a reputation as a world-class destroyer, a player who plugged holes and broke up play. He has since evolved into a dynamic conductor, mastering the dual role of deep-lying distributor and high-impact penetrator. And high-impact penetrate. He consistently scans early, receives under maximum pressure, and then, in a split second, makes a decision that dictates the pace of the entire match. He can carry the ball 30 yards through the centre of the pitch, drawing the press before offloading it, or he can recycle possession quickly, allowing the team to explode into the space he has just created. His metrics are soaring across the board. Progressive passes are up, successful passes under pressure are up, and critically, turnovers in dangerous areas are down. He is no longer just a shield protecting the back four. He is the mechanism that allows the entire team to switch gears seamlessly, from suffocating possession to lightning. Fast transition. The presence of a disciplined number 6, whether it is a Zuba-Mendy profile or another reliable water carrier, frees Rice to choose his moments to surge forward, adding a decisive, unpredictable element to the attack that opponents must account for. With the core structure now ironclad, Arteta has granted his attack the kind of tactical freedom that breeds unpredictability. For seasons, neutralising Bukayo Saka on the right flank was considered the blueprint to frustrating Arsenal. Those days of single-point vulnerability are completely over. The left flank has been weaponised into a constantly shape-shifting kaleidoscope of movement. Fullbacks like Ricardo Calafiore invert into central midfield, pulling markers out of position. Leandro Trossard, or an equivalent creator, floats into the half spaces, exploiting the confusion. A player like Jerian Timber, or the designated left, 8, occupies the pocket of space behind the forward. The result is a perpetual, engineered overload. 4 red shirts flooding the zone against 3 defenders, with a 5th player always arriving late to complicate the picture. This overload forms, dissolves, and reforms somewhere else on the pitch before the opposition's defensive block can even adjust. The integration of a proper number 9 profile, one who can either drop deep to link play and facilitate these rotations, or hold the defensive line to pin both opposing centre-backs, adds another dimension of complex danger. No. Arsenal can now dismantle a team in half a dozen completely different ways within the same 90 minutes. They can suffocate an opponent with sterile, high-possession dominance and wait for the inevitable set-piece goal. They can sit deep in a compact mid-block and execute a lethal counter-attack with Rice storming forward. Or they can simply overload one side, execute a sudden switch of play, and attack the weak side with 3 runners against 2 defenders. There is no longer a single puzzle for the opponent's scouting department to solve. There are 5 or 6, and the solution changes every week, rendering marking strategies obsolete. The final, and perhaps most spectacular, element of this impossible machine is this set-piece unit. Yep. Set pieces, which used to be a hopeful gamble, have been weaponized into a guaranteed return on investment under the tactical genius of Nicolas Jova. Arsenal has turned dead ball situations into the single most profitable weapon in the entire division. Every move is choreographed down to the inch. Clever blocking runs creating crucial separation, perfectly timed decoys freezing specific defenders, and multi-layered second-phase contingencies, ensuring the ball always falls to a red shirt in a dangerous position. Since the 2023-24 campaign, Arsenal has scored more goals from set plays than any other club in the Premier League, setting or equaling all-time records for goals scored directly from corners. Simultaneously, the expected goals conceded from opposition set pieces continues to plummet, thanks in part to the commanding presence of David Raya in goal, whose clean punching technique and air dominance have removed the last vestige of aerial vulnerability. The psychological impact of this set-piece threat is immense. Teams know that even if they successfully shut down the open play for 89 minutes, a single, harmless-looking corner kick can, and likely will, decide the match. This capability acts as a constant, low-frequency pressure point, forcing opponents to dedicate resources to defending the set piece that they would rather use in open play. Everything is now in place. The unbreakable cultural habits, the continent's best defensive record, a set-piece threat that wins matches on its own, a midfield engine that dictates the tempo of any game, and an attack that cannot be predicted or marked out of existence. The bottler narrative, starved of oxygen, has finally perished. The collapse of the past was the logical consequence of a system that tolerated inconsistency and fragility. Arteta replaced that weakness with an unyielding process and an unshakable system. As we look ahead, the question for the rest of Europe is not whether Arsenal will fix their old weaknesses, but whether they have a big enough flaw left in this machine to stop them from marching to multiple titles. From this vantage point, the answer looks extremely unlikely. The nightmare is over. Dynasty is beginning.